G'day guys, welcome back to Supercoach Swordplay. We have another team preview for 2025. And I tell you what, no offense to anyone that I've collaborated with during the preseason so far, but I must admit, and I'm not playing favourites, I've been really, really looking forward to this one because I've not had these two legends on the channel before, but we chat a heap basically every day through X and Messenger and all the rest. Two very good friends of mine. The first man I'll introduce right underneath me is a man that every one of you will be absolutely familiar with. One of the nicest blokes, the most entertaining content creator out there on the Supercoach planet. You would have seen plenty of Abs Labs so far. And I tell you what, we've got a common weapon in our side at the moment, but I'm super stoked. The Scodfather, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. How you going, legend?
Thank you for having me on the show. And our weapon, I had a debate with a friend on Facebook, and he said, "No, look, you didn't get that weapon first. Supercoach of DR did." I said, "No, it was me." He said, "No, it was Supercoach of DR." So, and actually, the funny thing is, we both got him at the same time, and so the two brains clicked at the same time. It was incredible. It was a masterstroke.
Oh, it wasn't. And as soon as I found out that the Scodfather's also got Richards in his side, I thought there is another big tick for Ed. Absolutely locking him in. But, mate, absolutely stoked to have you on. And we've also got a good mate of yours and a good mate of mine. You'll know this guy as well. He's 1/3 of Supercoach Insider. I better not say the best third just in case Chris and Benny are watching here, but a very, very good mate of mine. Now, I do have, this is going to be a fair introduction because not only is this man a great all-round bloke, one of the veterans of the game, one of the sharpest minds in the game, he's also been the Cricket Victoria Coach of the Year and Australia Day Sports Person of the Year. I'm talking about none other than Swizz, mate. Thank you very much for joining us. And that's a fair resume you got there, champion.
I do appreciate that, mate. It's, I think it was a lot of hard work that, and I still do appreciate those people who have obviously put me forward. And I appreciate the intro there, but more appreciate coming on with you guys. Both of you have already appeared on my show this pre-season. I haven't told you, but I'm going to be trying to wiggle you guys back again because as we lead up to the season in our very busy time. But it's awesome. This is the show I've been looking forward to. The Richmond legend himself, Scott. And then, mate, DR, you just, mate, you call me a champion, mate. You are an absolute champion bloke.
Oh, you're too kind. You are too kind, Swizz. The pleasure is all mine, and there is no one better to get on the Richmond team preview than you two blokes. Very, very passionate supporters. Now, let's be honest, they're not going to be a super relevant team for us in Supercoach this year, particularly in regards to premiums. We've certainly got some Tiger Cubs that are coming through that may interest us a little bit under 200K, but I don't think this is going to be an overly long one. But we do have another podcast in the works involving you two legends, which we may not talk about now, but that'll be happening in the next couple of weeks also. So let's get into it, guys. Now, in regards to the buys this year, only the one buy, and I think it's a fairly friendly one. It's round 14 that you share with Collingwood, Gold Coast, and Sydney. Maybe a few relevant players there from time to time, but hey, it's certainly no round 12 buy. Abs, Swizz, let's quickly talk about the rehab group. So, blokes, have you heard any murmurs about anyone that's struggling at the moment? We know that Noah Bolter will obviously be out of action for a little while due to some different circumstances here. But are there any players in particular that you think people may be looking at that have been struggling in the preseason or not had the best summer to date?
Well, we just seen on the news about Prestia. Now, we don't know if it's an injury, but there could be some reports of maybe a possible suspension. We don't know. So we know that Bolter copped a suspension, and that wasn't an injury, but new allegations about Prestia, so which opens up more midfield spots for our rookies. So there's a possibility of some spots opening up for these young Cubs.
That's a great point you make, Abs, because when we talk about players that'll be out of action, it also affects other players in the team and can give opportunities, particularly for clubs like Richmond that really do need to blood some of those young fellas. Swizz, anything else you've heard in regards to any problems on the track?
Yeah, I got a few. So we've got Jacob Blight, unfortunately, hurt his shoulder the other day. We kind of don't know the extent of that, but he was looking like a potential cover for Bolter while he was out. But yeah, late in the training session the other day, did hurt his shoulder. He's been having a fantastic preseason. Tommy Lynch with that concussion, obviously should be right by the season, but I did hear that he might have had a little minor setback on top of that. And one that we're really interested in is Josh Smiley, and he's now part of the rehab group as well. So yeah, probably a bit devastated there. I don't, and then you add these suspensions. Maybe with the thought at Tigerland was we're going to get too close to Carlton, and we don't want to be winning too many games this year, muck up our picks. So we needed to rub a few of our blokes out just to make sure of it.
Yeah, I love the tactics.
we also got Gibcus who's struggling.
Yeah.
So Luke Traynor now looks like a possibility to be that big, tall forward. Defender. Well, he can go forward as well. And from what I'm hearing on some YouTube channels, because this is like the Richmond dedicated YouTube channels, they're saying that they can't keep Traynor away from learning. He's learning that much, and he's that eager to play. And apparently he's flying, so he's a big one to watch. Also. Sorry, Swizz, I know you've got a few that you're going to talk about, because me and Swizz, we fight to get words in, so I'm trying to get them in before Swizz can get them in. So,
I'll sit back.
And we've also got Smith, okay, now running off half-back possibly. So the progress so far, the word coming out is doing a good job. So they're speaking highly of him in defence anyway.
Excellent. So a little bit of mixed news there. Probably Lynch, which we'll talk about, we'll touch on him in a little bit, concerns me a little bit that there's a setback, because I think he's probably the most popular player in regards to Richmond selections this year. But let's not talk all negatives, guys. Let's get into some positives here. Every year we hear that people are burning up the track, career bests, putting up the time trials. And Swizz, is there been a particular player so far that has really caught your eye, someone that's just really burning up the track so far in 2025?
Yeah, well, I nearly took offense when you opened up and said we weren't too relevant, because a lot of people who've been sending me teams do have quite a few Richmond players in it, including one of my co-hosts who is very bullish on a couple of them. So, yeah, which does make us a little bit interesting there. The one that could potentially be, like, I haven't necessarily looked at him for myself, but at 310, Jack Ross has been absolutely huge doing CBA action. We do know, obviously, Prestia outside suspension is taped together with sticky tape these days. Can't get on the park for probably more than 4 or 5 games. You got Jacob Hopper, who's similar, who's had a pretty good preseason as well, but we do obviously know his injury concerns. We've lost Graham from that midfield. Baker, who's the Mr. Fix-It man, can't go in there. Shea Bolton, who used to take some CBAs, not there anymore as well.
Jeez,
so it's really down to Tim Taranto, and the obvious one that was going to come in, the big body, was Josh Smiley, who's injured. So it's Sam Laylor, the number 1 pick, and he's had his injury issues through his under-18 year. So they're obviously looking at somebody who is mature age, who's ready to go. And yeah, Jack Ross, especially in that price range where I guess people have been looking at Peatling for 40K more, Phillip, who's now missing at that same price. So that, people are trying to find that 300 sort of guy. And here's a guy who's a mature age player at Richmond who could just roll into that midfield and potentially just become the M2.
That's why we get new blokes in, because I don't think there's too many coaches out there with Jack Ross on their radar. So really nice call, Swizz. And we do also have a player slide for him we'll touch on in a little bit. The Scodfather, how about yourself, mate? You got any fans?
I've got one that I'm very excited about. This one makes me very happy. Okay, now there's a young man by the name of Nank, okay, and he's a tank. Now, his fixtures coming up, okay, in round 1. He plays Carlton. Now, the last 2 times he played against Carlton, I think there's a 140 and a 130 there. So he plays Carlton in round 1. Now, Nank the Tank in round 2 plays against Port Adelaide. Now, we don't know who their ruckman is at Port Adelaide, so he's going to be on fire. Round 3, he plays St Kilda. Now, we don't know who their ruckman is going to be, so he's got another big game there. Now, round 4, and Nank the Tank plays against the Lions. We don't know if Fort's going to be their ruckman, so he's got another big game there. Now, round 5, Nank's got a tough game, I think. No, he's got actually, he might have an easy one again. He might have Fremantle And
could
you
be
don't know,
anyone. Could be Reedy by then.
who's going to be their ruckman. So he's got the first 5 rounds. He can average 140. Okay. Now in round 6, he's going to play Gold Coast. Okay. He may struggle against Gold Coast. Okay. Now round 7. Well, then the next 2 games they get tougher. Okay. Round 7 is Max Gorn. But the first 5 rounds, it's you can actually switch him to Max Gorn after he averages 140 and makes 100K, because he's only priced at about under 600K. So could do a switch with him and Gorn later on. It's actually something that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, well, we saw what his ceiling was like last year as well, didn't we?
He went 120 on the run home last 11 or 12 games. He went nuts. And it's huge. And he's 1% owned. No one owns him. Okay. He was actually my weapon. I announced him as the weapon, but I saw English. Okay. And English gets me very excited as well. So, and I want Shrek. So there's too many that I want. And TDK sort of gone out of my, well, we're talking Richmond, are we? So let's not talk about the rest of them. But Nank really excites me. If I can fit in 3 ruckman, Nank, I think, will be the 3rd one.
I tell you what, that's going to send some shockwaves through the community, because I haven't really heard anyone mention his name. But if you mention his name, that gets everybody talking, mate. So some very, very interesting options there. Let's get into the defense now. So we'll touch on the kick-ins very quickly, talk about some defenders, then get into the CBAs, some mids, and then finish off with some rookies. But just looking in at the kick-in data from last year, we can see Jayden Short there with 95 kick-ins in total, only 87% play on percentage, which surprised me a little bit. I expected that to be a little bit higher. Now, I know lots of people are thinking that there is potentially some more meat on the bone with the Short pick, given the fact that Rioli is now gone up to the Suns. Now, looking there, I can see that Rioli had a total of 34 kick-ins. Now, let's just say if we give every one of those to Short, and we don't give 34, because just say that 87% play on, just say though, 25 extra kick-ins, maybe 1 kick extra a game. Is that enough meat on the bone? I'm asking myself, just within that stat itself. I'm sure that with Rioli out, he may potentially get a little bit more of the ball around the ground. They'll obviously want it in his hands, but I'm finding this kick-in graphic here a little bit difficult to work out exactly what's going to happen with those Rioli kick-ins. So, yeah. Abs, have you got any idea where you think they're going to go? Is the whole monopoly just going to go to Short now, or maybe Vlosten get some of the action as well, mate?
I've been studying these kicking things, okay? They drive me nuts, and I've been studying them. And with Richmond, if you take note, there's 3 players always taking kick-ins, all right? Like if you go to Gold Coast, they usually got 1 or 2. Some teams have 3 or 4. Usually it's 3. And they're going to replace Rioli with Broad, I'd say. I'd say they're going to still take the 3 players, because they like to mix it. They don't want to have one person and they become too predictable. So I tend to think that Richmond, especially Uze, he likes to have 3 players taking kick-ins. And if you take note, they're pretty much sharing it, although Rioli didn't take that many in some towards the latter stage, but it's always 3 or 4 players taking kick-ins. So they don't really want one person doing it, from what I've seen.
Very interesting, and that's good to know, because we know that, for the Stephen Mays of the world, for example, down at Melbourne, he's got the absolute monopoly on those, and every now and then someone else may come in. So that's really good to know, Abs, that Jayden Short doesn't necessarily have this huge monopoly like other players from different setups. Swizz, anything you can add to the kick-in duties, your predictions for the kick-in duties going into this year, mate?
Yeah, 100% agree. I don't know if it's going to be Brody. It would not surprise me if it's Sammy Banks, because he's part of that backline setup. A few people asked me about Tom Brown, but I think we're actually pretty set in regards to the majority of our backline outside that key tall position now that Bolter's left free. So you're going to have Miller, who, he took the odd kick in because he was close enough, and, you have Short or Broad off the ground. So if he's there, then, they still were happy for him to take 1 or 2, no problems. You're going to have Brown, Vlosten, Broad, Short, whoever that extra tall is, and then the 6th and 7th defender, which at the moment looks like to be potentially Banks. And then it could be a Kaleb Smith, could be they might even send more Seth Campbell down there if they want some more run. So it's kind of open. And, you even look at a couple games there where we use 6 guys kicking in. So I feel like there's no designated kicker. It's just not how we play. It's whoever's closest, and we just sort of don't have really a set sort of player. Like maybe they've tried something different over the preseason, but I don't think that's the way we roll.
Brilliant advice, guys. Let's touch on a player, and we've already talked about him and touched on him a little bit in Jayden Short. So 442,300. He's that option in between 400 to 500 if you don't want to go up to your Sinclair, Jordan Clark type picks. He, along with your McKirches, your Trent River types, who Abs and I just on the down low are having a little watch on Rivers at the moment. But how realistic do you think it is for Short to be a successful selection this year? We can see that he's never really reached that uber average, from 2020 to 2023, super consistent, don't get me wrong, all around the high 90s there. But Abs, do you think that he can actually take his game to that next level to make him a relevant keeper for us? Or is there even a play to start with him and then look to upgrade? What are your thoughts very quickly, mate, on Short?
I actually did Jayden Short's review, okay? And in my final verdict, I told everyone just to run away. I said, pack the bags. Don't look at him. Don't turn back. Don't do it. Because at Richmond, you look at Rioli, and we say Rioli's left. But Rioli didn't average that much either. I mean, if you look at Rioli's average, it was actually under Jayden Short. So Jayden Short actually averaged more than Rioli last year. The Richmond defenders, the problem is they're not a high possession team. That they're not like Freo, where Freo kick the kick. Okay, Richmond are very direct. And the problem with Richmond is when they're direct, they try to kick the ball anywhere long, and it doesn't usually hit a target. And especially Short lately, in his earlier days, he was hitting targets. But what I noticed with Short, and Swizz had him in his team last year, I think from memory, so he would have noticed as well, that Short doesn't hit the targets like he used to. He goes for those hard kicks, and those hard kicks don't come off all the time.
Yeah, I'll follow up on that, mate, straight off. Like, I had a massive argument with my co-host Chris about this, who was looking at him. Short came into my team for about 5 minutes just because I had 440 and I didn't want to go to Roberts just because he had the early buy. And I've got enough questions about him. And I was just the whole 5 minutes he was there, I was just trying to find somebody else to put Short to. I don't like the pick. His best ever is that 98.8, as you said, consistent. But most of the halfbacks these days are going 1.5. And he's not going to be that player. And the big thing with it, if you look for, say, that those sort of guys in the low 500s, even your Nasai Wanganeen Maliras, your Bailey Dells, players like that, they've got not only the ability to sort of short kick and chip around, they've got good midfielders that they can kick to in, say, your Bonts, for example, your Jack Steels, and then they've also got lead up targets, centre half forwards, where Richmond at the moment don't have a forward line if Lynch doesn't play. And if Lynch is playing I think after the latest sort of setback, especially with the concussion, he's probably more starting in the square than being that roaming centre half forward. So Short doesn't have that guy to kick to. And the midfield, it's a little dicey at the moment. And Richmond don't play just, as Ab said, the little chip games like some of the other team do. So I think there's definitely an uplift from last year, but you need it to be a minimum of 20 points. And I don't think he's getting anywhere near that. It might be a 90, so it's just an easy pass.
Yeah, I'd say he's priced at what he's going to produce, pretty much. You're virtually paying for what you're going to get. You're going to get 442K worth of value.
Well, not a fantastic endorsement for the Jayden Short pick from our two Richmond legends. So I'm scrapping off the list. No Short.
Can I add, I'll quickly add? So the funny thing is, everyone who's been asking me about Short or has Short in his team are non-Richmond supporters. Every Richmond supporter I talk to does not have Short in their team.
Well, it's funny because very quickly, Abs just mentioned that he's not necessarily hitting the targets these days. Because I haven't been watching overly closely or paying much attention to Short. That's something I didn't realise. That's something I automatically think with Jayden Short, those bullets, accurate kicks. But yeah, if he's not even hitting the ball that well, then yeah, I think that upside goes as well. We're not going to spend really.
He's a poor man's Jordan Clark.
I like that. The poor man's Jordan Clark. James Trezise. Now, I don't think, given that the price is going to be relevance here, but I did have a question about him. 22 years of age, only 56.7. But I suppose the only question I've got, boys, is there any chance that he'll get a regular best 22 gig, or is he just on the fringe, awkward price, skip past him?
The funny thing with Richmond is, even though we're on the bottom of the ladder, our defense is very good. We've got too many defenders. We don't have nothing else. Okay, all we got is defenders, and so job security is also a problem with Trezise. Sub risk, job security. So it's definitely a pass, I'd say.
Easy.
If this was Tinder, mate, I was just swiping there, and I was just
you're just swiping.
I just literally giving the swipe.
Swizz, how about Kaleb Smith? Now, Abs did mention before that he's having a pretty decent pre-season. I think this bloke is one of the relevant rookies that we do need to touch on. Played the 4 games last year, didn't have much of an impact, not much opportunity. But the big question is, do you think he's going to play round 1? And who's he competing with for that spot? How realistic is it that we're going to be able to select him either on our bench or even as that D6 option?
He rotates out of my D8 probably nearly every day. Comes in, rotates out. And it just depends which other rookies kind of available. But he's sort of my backup there. I think he gets opportunities. It's just how early. I think he could potentially be the D7 who's starting off the bench for Richmond and rotating on. The sub risk is real. That is one worry for me. So I need to see how that sits in preseason, because Sam Banks, I think, is the obvious one over Kaleb Smith that takes that spot where they'll give some opportunities. I nearly feel like, fortunately and unfortunately, we haven't had the injury to one of the smalls or mediums. So he probably is one injury away from a Vlossen or a Brown or a Short, for example, to come in there. And nearly in a perfect world for our teams, he wouldn't start. And if Richmond were to get a long-term injury for one of those guys, he would be a great downgrade option.
Excellent.
The thing is also in these practice games, they have 4 halfback flankers. Okay, so they have 2 for each side, and all from the same team. So you don't know that they say he's playing well, he's firing, but in the preseason, everybody is on fire. Okay, so we got to see, like Swizz said, is he selected? So we're going to find out. And unfortunately, neither of us two have the answer for that one. We don't know. I don't think even Adam Uze knows if he's going to play or not yet. So we're going to find out pretty soon.
Wait for team sheets.
Abs, I've heard Uze's tuned into this program just to see who we recommend he should choose.
Well, then Richmond is in big trouble. I'll tell you that now.
Last defender, boys. Josh Gibcus. Now, I think you've already mentioned, Ab, you touched on the fact that he has a little bit of a setback. Yeah, durability history isn't fantastic even for a young man here. Very, very talented player. I know an early pick, but at this stage, boys, we're just, again, swiping left and maybe looking at him when he regains full fitness.
Even when he regains full fitness, let's just say he was fully fit right now and ready to fire. At his price, what is his price? Is it 150?
Yeah.
Yeah, 153K. He's going to average about 60. He's not one of those high-scoring players. I don't know. I don't think he's the one. I would definitely pass. Like Reed is so much cheaper at Essendon and more stronger body. So even though he's also fragile, they're all fragile. So, but I would pass on Gibcus for sure.
Easy. Swizz, easy swipe left for you as well, mate.
Yeah, mate, this kid could be Jacob Wiedering if he gets his body right down the track. But I have grave concerns because we're already seeing some injuries at an early age. But for us, I'm just fingers crossed he by the time he gets to the 25, 26, he's got 80 games under his belt. And, we see the best of him. But, yeah, there are some concerns there. Just want to see him play some games. But from a Supercoach point of view, just leave him alone.
Easy, mate. Beautiful. All right. Very quickly, we'll take a quick look at the CBAs from last year. And you've already mentioned during the rehab chat that a few of these blokes may be in the rehab or even left the club now. So we've got obviously the big Nank the Tank up there. Timmy Taranto, I think, is going to be an absolute lock. And then we go to your Hopper, Dow, Prestia, Bolton to McAuliffe. And then we even see Graham Baker down the bottom of the list there at 37 and 35%. And then we also see Jack Ross at 32, who may have a little bit of an uptake this year. But Guys, what do you think is going to be the major changes here? Can we pretty much lock in that Nank and Taranto are going to keep that uptake, potentially even a little bit more if need be? Who else comes in? Who do you see as the next cabs off the rank?
The problem with Richmond, even in their premiership glory years, we've never had a midfield. We've had half forwards and wingers play as a midfielder. We had Edwards, our midfielder. We had Dusty coming as a midfielder. We've never really had only Trent Cotchin was a genuine mid, and probably Prestia when he turned up, because he was injured half the time. So I can see Richmond blooding the kids and putting games into them. I think it'll be a waste if the kids aren't playing. If Hopper's in there, I'd be very disappointed, because I'd rather see Taranto or Hopper, one of the two at the not at the same time, at different times. Yeah, and I want to see the kids there next to them. So one senior body and then two kids. That's what I'd love to see that. So I'd say it's going to be Smiley for sure, and maybe our number one recruit, number 4. Okay, maybe he's the boy. He can do it.
Very nice. Exciting times with these Tiger Cubs who we will touch on. Swizz, what do you see happening with the CBAs this year, mate? You got the similar thoughts to the Scodfather, where you might look to have 1 or 2 mature bodies in there, but really try to blood some of those younger fellas like your Smiley, for example, and Laylaw when fit and if fit?
I'm not as with Scott here thinking the kids are going to get as much exposure. I think it's only going to probably be one at a time. Would not surprise me if Laylaw swaps up from half forward, spends a bit of time up there, and then rotates through the midfield. So once Smiley's right, he will get opportunities because he's only really a mid. But of that list, I'm really hoping it's not Thompson Dow. I hope it's Kane McAuliffe, and I think he is the one. So he's got the size. Wasn't the rookie that we needed last year. Unfortunately, didn't get as much opportunity as we wanted, but this boy's got some great size about him. Still only 19 years old. 187 centimeters. So I guess if you've got deep drafts or keeper leagues or whatever, have a look at this boy, because I think he's the one that gets the first crack in there. As I've already said, the big uptick is coming for Ross, because you kind of look through that list of Prestia, I feel like won't be there. You've got no Bolton anymore. Naismith's was the backup ruck, not there anymore. Graham's not there. Baker's not there. So it really is. It's pretty well Taranto, Hopper, Ross, McAuliffe, and then the 2 new boys.
Well, here's Timmy Taranto. Very quickly, I don't think that many of us are going to be in the content creator world are looking too closely at him. But Abs, I might start with you. Why shouldn't we pick Tim Taranto this year? Or should we? You may surprise me here.
No surprises coming. Okay, now with Taranto in his well, that was 2 years ago. He had a massive average. What was his average? Let me find it. Timmy Taranto 2 years ago. So I looked at
that was the year he was going. Was he talking about the 106 or when he was a forward for us?
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah. He kicked 2 goals a game on many occasions and got that big average. When we take out those 2 goal a game scores, because that was a year where Richmond played well. I mean, even though we weren't premiership contenders, we were a lot better than we were last year. And he's not going to kick those goals this year. That's not going to happen. The ball's hardly going to go in that forward line. So Timmy Taranto, without kicking goals or kicking at least 1 goal a game, is averaging less than 100. That's when I looked up the stats. It's because his disposal efficiency, it's not good. It's probably good for fantasy, okay, but not for Supercoach.
Absolutely, mate. Couldn't have said it better myself. Totally agree there. Swizz, any other reasons why we shouldn't be looking at Timmy?
Well, his average up until the bye that year was 119, and then his second half dropped to 106. So it was a bit yin and yang there. And I think some people who have sent me their teams have got him in thinking we're going to see that repeat of the 120, but he had more support around him. It's a big load to carry when you're bottom of the ladder, you're not winning games. As Ab said, he's not going to be hitting the scoreboard. So I just can't see a world where he's going to return to that. And if he's not going 110, well, you just can't pick him. So maybe a fantasy option for your like last midfield spot, because he'll get the ball, but he's got no one to kick it to as well. So yeah,
Great
I'm not
price.
in love with the pick from the Supercoach perspective.
And I think that quick chat there just outlines the difference between, you know, a good coach and the great coaches like yourselves, because you're actually researching, well, why have we seen this drop off? So Abs, you've noticed those drop off in goals and his impact with the scoreboard. And Swizz, as you've mentioned as well, he lacks that support around him these days, particularly given he's really the main man in there. So this is what you got to do, people. Do your research, look into numbers like these two legends, and it's really going to help to give you the edge. The only other bloke we're going to quickly touch on the midfield is your boy Jack Ross, who we've already really talked about already, but just some stats there. He's only in 0.4% of sides, 64 for his 2024 season average. So if he does get that uptake in CBAs with that mature body, I can certainly say that average getting an uptick. I can see at least 20 points in there getting to an 85. Swizz, you've talked a bit about him. Anything else you can add to Jack Ross quickly before we move on, mate?
Yeah, well, people are going to see like his previous averages and say, okay, he's never done it before, but there's been reasons why. And we talked about it earlier about the players who are missing. So he was probably caught up on a wing a lot as well. And you got to also think when he was coming through the ranks there, he was still getting games, but he was a young fella. So now that he's mature, you know, he's got there 24 years old, you know, he's got games under the belt. Yeah, there is that possibility where, yeah, he's going to get the more time. And if you're spending more time around the ball in the CBAs, just naturally, you're going to find it more. You're going to have to put in more tackles. You're going to get contested ball, where, you know, when you're in a wing role, you know, it's uncontested positions too. So you're going to get, all those tackles 1.7. Like that is definitely going to grow. He did show signs a couple of years ago when he did get a little bit of an uptick. Like I think straight after sort of the bye, he had an 84, 95, 112, 90, 92 in sort of a 6-7 game stretch. Decent. So there is a short history there with that opportunity. And we don't need this guy to be a keeper. Like this is, again, we're looking at guys in that like cheaper than Peteling. It's a shame that he's just a mid, but yeah, if he can sort of get 100, like it's what you want out of him. So it's what you want out of rookies. Pretty well every rookie, you really want 150K, perfect world. So what does he need to do to get sort of 150K? It's probably average 90.
90
like
minimum.
90.
Yeah, at a 5.0 magic number gets it to 450K. Even that doesn't get you there.
Yeah, so the makeup of that Richmond midfield, if he is that locked in at M2 because they are missing, say, Prestia or Hopper gets another long-term injury, yeah, you've got to at least think about it. And maybe just one that if you have throughout the year, and let's just say, because even Taranto's missed games in the past, like this whole Richmond midfield, they're not the most durable group. Like if you kind of look through last year's stats, so Taranto played 15 games, Prestia 13, and I could keep scrolling all day to try to find Hopper in there. Was Hopper 12? So there is a world where they all miss, and he ends up becoming the main man because they've just got no one else. So then if you are the midfield one, well, why? Yeah, I'm not expecting just because you're M1, you're going over 100, but you're the one getting all the ball. And if you've got somebody who's good as Nankervis at least tapping down to you, 90 is not a stretch. So it's one I really like in draft because nobody's going to be touching him. And people are just going to scroll down for their last midfield or their bench midfielder, see Jack Ross and be like, okay, I'll just keep scrolling. Where that's where those who are really good at draft, and unfortunately I'm in with the man below you in a few of them, which is all unknown. So I hope I'm not picking around him because both of us will be looking at that Jack Ross for our bench mid spot going, oh, that's juicy.
The problem I found with Ross was what you just mentioned, all the players going in and out of the team, like injured. So when these injured players come back, that's the problem. He goes out, and he sometimes he plays on the wing, sometimes he plays on a half forward. He should logically get more midfield time. Logic says he should, but then you got these kids. Are we going to blood them? I mean, they're not there just to mature. They got to play games. So I think Ross has had his time. He's 24. He's at his prime now. but he's got to show it. And if he doesn't, I don't know. I think the young kids are going to take over.
All right. Well, a potentially juicy option. And look, maybe if you've managed to get an extra 100-something K in the bank, you could always upgrade one of these 200K Ned Allen type rookie that you may not be quite sure on for a more mature body for the extra 100K. But yeah, very, very interesting player. Now, we'll pretty much skip past this because, Abs, you've already given us all the good goss on the Nank. We know that you're half keen on him. We've talked about his fixture. If we look at his scoring as well, I've just got here, it's on an upwards trend since 2019, 74, 82, 94, 97, 104, and then 110. So if that continues as it's gone since that point in time, then we're looking at a really nice average again this year. So 110.2 last year. And you're right, mate, before, only 1.2% of coaches are currently keen on him. So potentially another weapon, or even could he be a bit of a sneaky flex? You know, start him there. He's got that really nice run at the start of the year. Go, well, thank you for your work, mate. You've hopefully made 50, 80, 100K if all things go well. Now that he's got a bit of a tougher run, I'm just going to get onto a brand new shiny toy. Anything else you can add to the Nank sort of talk, mate, or discussion?
Well, when you say weapon and then you got Nank the tank, weapon and tank, it sort of it gives the hint, right? So that should give you confidence to make him the weapon.
Any weapon of yours, Abs, I get very, very confident, mate. Let me tell you that. Swizz, anything else you want to quickly add to Nank before we move on to the last couple of slides?
Yeah, so one of my cricket teammates does a lot of leadership around with the Richmond boys. I know he's gone over to Samoa with some of the lads, and I think there was another trip that he'd organised. And he was talking to me recently, saying he sat down with Toby Nankervis, had a long chat with him, just around sort of leadership, because my mate does a lot of corporate leadership. And so Toby's been trying to improve that side of his game too. He understands that he is the main leader, and he's going to have to lead from the front, help develop these young fellas, because they don't have a lot of the other guys. Like he was co-captain with Grimes there for a while. Even Dusty, as much as probably not the most vocal leader, still a very experienced player around with Koch and Jack, all these guys that have left the club. So it really is Toby in there, and so he knows that off-field and on-field, he's got to put his best showing. And yeah, that period there last year where we kind of really started to see that breakout, 105, 127, 117, 144, 133, 121, 159, 107, and then an injury-affected Port Adelaide game of 58 ruined that run. So he's a guy who was already showing that, it's just him in there. He's the one got to tackle, he's got to follow up, he's got to get clearances, and he's trying to improve himself because we've really got no other choice.
Sherry is virtually Nank's clone. Sherry and Nank play very similar. Sherry tackles, goes hard. It's very similar to. There's so many ruckmen that play very similar to these two boys. Possibly Grundy in a way, but Grundy's a bit slower, whereas Nank probably a bit more clean. But I see Nank and Sherry going head to head until those tough games come up anyway. Because Sherry has a tough run as well at the start. So it's going to be. I'd say Nank will overtake Sherry at the first 6 or 7 rounds. Then maybe Sherry will come back later on.
Even the tough games, mate. It wasn't like he went 120 against Melbourne last year. He went 150 up against Cherry last year. Like, I don't think it really worries him.
He smashed Cherry. Yeah,
absolutely smoked him.
Wow.
Where I mean, that's a game we still lost. Like, these are games that we were getting beaten in. Probably his worst game was against the Swans, where we actually won. But there was probably there was a couple of games where there was a couple of time on ground issues. But once he got sort of the body right and he got in that period, he was absolutely flying. So you could definitely start.
He gets a lot of hardball gets. That's his source of points. It's hardball. Like you pick it up from the ground, it's a hardball get. That's like 3 points. Handball it off. That's another 2 points. So it's just then he'll tackle someone. It's another 4 points. So before you know, he just made 9 points. It's actually not his good work that gets the points. It's the other stuff he does.
It's the Riley O'Brien factor where, because they didn't have to spread the Crows, so he just taps pretty well straight to the ground. Nank's the same. He doesn't have but the difference with, say, Nank compared to Riley O, he taps it straight to the ground, but he's the one laying the tackle.
Yeah, follows up.
Follow through, and then we get the next hit up too. And so for us, we probably need to bottle it in, and we've got Taranto and Hopper and Prestia, who aren't probably speedy blokes anymore, the contested guys. So we're not trying to smash the ball out the back where like a Gorn does, for example, and get the spread on the game. So that does get that contested game up a lot, and he does benefit from that.
And plus, he does do what Gorn does, which is the intercept marking in defence. And the ball does come to our defence a lot. So
yes,
he gets a lot of those intercept marks, which is pretty handy.
Tell you what, you've got me interested here. I didn't think I'd be interested in a new Tiger, but potentially Nank the Tank. And as a young man, knowing that this is your captain, someone like a Josh Smiley, going into that midfield, a little bit intimidated against the Patrick Crippers and all these guys of the world, standing there next to your captain Nank, you'd walk a lot taller, I think. So very, very interesting selection. Boys, there's only a couple more slides. One forward in Tom Lynch, and then we've got a couple of Cubs that we'll touch on very quickly. But look, I suppose to put it really, really simply, Abs, if Tom Lynch is fit, no lingering concussion issues coming into round one, is he an automatic selection in our side at 183,200? Or surely all we need is a bag early or just a couple of half decent games. Is he a lock, mate? Or you got some concerns?
I've got a lot of concerns.
Oh, okay.
We've 180K, all right? Let's say you spent 130K on a rookie. It doesn't have to be any, could be any rookie, right? We've got a few forward rookies that are playing. You got 50K to play with in another position. Now, that 130K rookie should make you about 150K, okay? Most of them are, okay? So for Tom Lynch to make you that 150K, he has to go to, 330K, okay? So that's to average you 70. So he probably will. But why would I want to spend 180K to make 150K when I could spend 130K to make 150K? So I'm a bit of a tight ass, okay? I don't like to spend my cash. But 180K, he needs to bag 4 goals a week to score 100, okay? He's not going to, at Richmond, he's going to be double tagged. He's going to double play, 2 players on him. The ball not going to come in like it used to. You don't have Dusty delivering the ball now. So, plus he's injury prone. I mean, you don't know, every second week he might be missing something always wrong with him. So very danger. Okay, I'll pass.
That's a great point about saving that money and what you can do with it. And I know why you need to be tight, mate, because I don't know how many guitars you smashed last year, but surely they are pretty costly. So you do need to watch your budget there, mate. When we get a little bit frustrated with what's going on with our Supercoach sides. Swizz, I was a little bit surprised because for me, I thought, it's Tom Lynch. Just get him in. He's this mature age guy, get a bag. But Abs makes a really, really good point. Maybe he's not the lock that we're all thinking that he is. What are your feelings on Lynch very quickly, mate?
Might have been the first guy I picked when Supercoach opened, and I love Tom Lynch. Don't hate me there, guys out there, because I know what you guys see off field, on field is completely different to the bloke off field. But I absolutely love the guy. But the problem is there's literally no support, as Abs was saying. There's no. The talk is it might be Liam Fawcett as the second forward, who I think actually that's the way we'll go early before some of these other guys get opportunity. So they're going to just zone off. Like the second or the third defender are just going to zone off because the ball's going to Lynch every time. We know he's got the ability to do it. And if he is playing goal square and we're playing... The hard thing with AFL, there's no other real kind of bad team. Like North Melbourne, West Coast, I hear their supporters say we're going to improve, which they are. But the whole comp is going to improve. And realistically, the teams other teams that are going to be bottom 4 is probably the teams that are going to cop injuries. The moment you've got 3, 4, 5, 6 injuries, this game's brutal. You're finishing bottom 4. And that's all it's going to take. The only team that's obvious bottom is Richmond. And just because obviously the situation we're in. So I don't see the team that he's just going to beat up on and get that. Like, he's got the ability to kick 6 to 8 goals in the game, no problems, and get a massive bag. But it's not obvious who he's going to do it against because there's just no real weak team because the competition's so close. And that's, as Abs was saying, if he gets on the park, which been flying all preseason until that sort of concussion, which then just worries about if he's not playing centre half forward and not running up the ground and, you know, taking big contested marks. And that's the problem with a concussion. At least it's not like a soft tissue injury, but he's going to have to take contested marks to do that. And, you know, then you're putting your head, you know, where it could get smashed in from the defender behind and stuff. And, you know, you are going to be just that little bit worried. And he's going to be worried about his body. You know, he's 32. He's no spring chicken anymore. He's done his job, what he was brought in to do at Richmond, and win the flags after we'd already got the one. But unfortunately, he's now there just to probably I think he's kind of like an on-field kind of coach. He's there to help the new key forwards, and we've got a lot of them, and show them how to play the game, but also our young key backs to play against the training. It's nearly that's his kind of role in the team. And come a Saturday, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, can you put the boots on and actually run around for us because we just got no one. So if he was probably like 120, 130. And when the Supercoach opened at 180, I didn't think we would probably have too many forward options, but they are flowing everywhere. Like I've had to look at putting forwards in my mids, in my flex, just because there's so many kind of, not just rookie ones, but now we've got these 200 guys in your Marriages and Hutchinsons and you name it. So there's no shortage, and it was already stacked because of the amount of mid prices we have. So without even thinking about, like, obviously Abs's thing about the saving the cash because you're going to, spend 180 just to make the 150K anyway, and what he has to do. There's all these other factors where I'm just like, well, now it's just a pass and just the hope that he doesn't hurt me by going one massive game early on to get that spike. But even so, probably this might be a low game in there. And if he does have a big game, he's probably money isn't actually going up until the following week. And then I can kind of reassess and go, okay, who's the opposition coming up? Is there a chance that he could do it one more time and maybe with that low break even get on, if he's at 200K, but still I think it would be an avoid.
That's great advice. And I tell you what, I think with the Tom Lynch selection, I'm a little bit guilty of not looking beyond the name and the price. So fantastic advice there. And may exit my side. This last one, boys, and we've already talked a little bit about these fellas, but we do have the 2024 Tiger Cubs. We've got Harry Armstrong, Luke Trainer, Josh Smiley, Sam Laylaw, Houghton, as well as Jonty Fall. Now, I'm assuming that Smiley, Laylaw are looking pretty good for some time when they're fit. Abs already mentioned Luke Trainer at the start is impressing and may get an opportunity due to some other injuries. But is there anything else that any of you guys want to add to the discussion that we've already had about these players? Because I think we've covered most of the really relevant ones. But is there anything else you want to touch on before we say goodbye to our wonderful audience?
You go first, mate.
I can't wait to bring in Houghton into my team during the bye rounds, in the mid-season bye rounds when he comes back, because he's a Jet. He's virtually the best pick of the whole lot. He's my favourite player. So I think Houghton is going to go bananas when he comes on.
Love it. Swizz? So we've got one that we can just keep in the bank from Abs there. Just leave Houghton there on the watch list until he's ready to come in. Anyone else that we need to discuss here?
Laylaw, are you studying Laylaw, Swizz?
I played around my team and put starters in instead of Draper, but I've probably got the money to get up to Laylaw. I'm just waiting to see him do the preseason. So going through the list there, and I could speak about this for half an hour, but I'll give you a quick 2-minute summary. Harry Armstrong, no, key forward, leave him alone. Luke Trainer could have gone top 5 in the draft, kept falling because I think so many teams are hesitant about the concussion situation. He was the one that kicked the winning goal, Vic Metro, Vic Country in the under-18s grand final. Yeah. So very talented swingman. And just because of our injuries, and apparently he's just lighting up where they're trying to hold him back at training from doing too much. But he's one that I'm definitely keen on now, especially because I thought Jacob would be the one. But now that he's also looks like he might have a shoulder issue, I think Luke Trainer's going to probably get opportunities. We've got Tyler Young missing as well. So all our we've got a ton of key tools that are just not on the park. Abs and I might have to put the boots on the way it's going. Josh Smiley, once this kid's fit, he contested beast, huge, great size about him. If he's fit round 1, he's the one that I was definitely putting in. You want him playing in the midfield, and that's where he's going to play. Sammy Laylaw, the only issue is that soft tissue history and the fact that he can play half forward and then rotate to the midfield, but he's doing everything right. Taj, 100%, mate. Then he is our new kind of Shea Bolton, but could be the better version of him. He'll be a highlights package, and he's just a superstar. Jonty Fall, leave alone, because again, a tall forward. The two that there's actually a couple that you don't have on there. Jasper Alga, I really like him he's the 113 we traded into this year. I think it was the Suns pick to go get him at 58 off the top of my head, something like that in the 50s. He was rated by both Fox Footy and I might even been Cal Toomey, had him both inside the top 30. He was the one that continued the slide on draft night. So he's a half forward. And with all our forward woes, no surprise there. It's just a hard thing what sort of opportunities our half forwards, but at least half forwards can push up. And he's 113K, which is cheap as chips. Justin Clark, who has been on the list for a couple of years, had that serious injury, won't start the season. But another one to look is a downgrade option at 119K, who's a forward who could potentially play wing time for us as well. So they're guys that I'm sort of also interested in. And I've got to give a shout, and he's not rookie price, but Ryan Mansell, unfortunately at 322, so it's not classic, but from a draft perspective, this kid has been absolutely lighting up the track to kind of being an on-field leader. Him and Sam Banks have really put their hand up as sort of the young leaders in the next brigade. So again, just a smoky there. Maybe if you've got a bench draft in a deep draft, you could do worse than throwing a Mansell on there.
Beautiful. Reminds me a bit of a junkyard dog, Mansell. Just doesn't do the fancy things. Just love the way he goes about it, Mansell.
With Laylaw, I've seen him in a few teams. He's giving me headaches. I don't know if he's one we should start with or not. At 203K, it's a lot of cash. I mean, if you consider 200K in all the positions, okay, we got at Port Adelaide a young defender there. He's 220K, and they're saying he's taking the Houston role. Now, would you rather have a halfback flanker taking a Houston role at 220K, or pay for a same Laylaw who may play half forward, maybe a bit of mid time? It's maybe not much time on ground, so it's a bit hard picking these rookies at 200K. Because last year I didn't start Harley Reid, and he was 200K. I didn't want to pay for him. Tight ass again, okay. And I didn't even start McKercher last year. I didn't start both of them. Although I did bring McKercher in, okay, and then took him out again, okay. But
see, I started McKercher. Harley Reid, I started him too, but traded him out before he went nuts against Sydney. That frustrated me because he was playing forward at that point. Don't want 200 guy playing forward. I have been advising people to put Laylaw in your team because it's way easier to go down depending if Sardis, Ashcroft, Smith, Draper, Langford, whichever one you don't have who lights up the track, way easier to go down than the other way around, where if Laylaw just absolutely rips up these preseason games, and then you've got to change your team to try to find the extra 10, 15, 30K to get him in. So I would rather have Laylaw in my team right now because that frees up cash to do stuff than the other way around.
Yeah, and that's more strategy-wise. That's what I'm doing with Gawn in my rucks at the moment, just knowing that I can go down and you've got that extra cash. There's nothing worse than having to try to find a way to go up, is there? So I think for anyone that's confused what Swizz was saying, is that he's not necessarily saying start with your Sam Laylaw, get him in as a placeholder now, and you've got so many options below him in case he doesn't work out or in case you're interested in someone else. So that is fantastic advice, mate. And boys, is there anything else you want to add about the Cubs before we wrap this thing up?
No, we just want Swizz to sing the song for us because that's what he promised us at the start of the program. But he says he's going to sing the Richmond theme song. So whenever you're ready, Swizz.
Already got the voice of an angel.
Mate, I think I've said this before on my pod. Like, my wife's a singer. She's classical, opera, you name it and stuff. Very talented person. I do not have a music bone in my body. I am the guy, but that gets up in karaoke nights and goes, "Let me on," and people are like, hold it to the end when the restaurant's already nearly cleared out, so we, don't clear them out too early. I have a shocking voice, but it's good. I don't think it's going to be the most successful year. We're not going to go 0-23 because teams always win one game. but I think we only win one game. The big thing for us is if you've got a player who's playing Richmond, chuck the VC or captain on us, because I think we are leaking lots of points this season. So we're very relevant on that point of view, and we usually don't tag either, especially now that there's no Graham or stuff in there. I can't really think of an obvious tagger that's going to do a run with roll. Abs, have you kind of considered that? Because I don't see one.
Round two.
No, well, the mature bodies that we got, Hopper, he's not fast. Okay, Taranto's not. We got nobody. Ross is probably. I don't know. He's not even that fast, but it's sort of. But no, we won't tag. I mean, there's no point tagging. Or what's the point of tagging if you're not going to win? Okay, you tag if it's going to be a close game and you're going to win something, but Richmond's going to win nothing. Okay, there's no point tagging.
It's very true. Maybe the only way I can see it is maybe if they want to, just for education and development, say to a Smiley, hey, run around with someone like a Patrick Cripps, learn from the best, look at his running patterns and the way that he goes about it. But apart from that, yeah, absolutely agree. But boys, I cannot thank you enough for finally coming on the channel. Abs, you have had one of the biggest days possible, mate, with so much going on, yet you have still put us first, put the Supercoach community first, over yourself and over your best interest, because I know you need to jet off really, really soon. I cannot thank you enough, legend. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Is there anything that you can tell us about what you've got in the works in regards to content or anything else, mate?
Well, we've got a big one coming up together. That's a big show. No one has to. You cannot miss that show. It's the biggest one ever. It's going to be how many? We have about 10 content producers on at the same time.
Epic.
Well, maybe I won't mention it because you can mention it to your audience. I won't slip the tongue yet. So, however, I have got a special Spud 10 or something you've given me. Can you talk us through this special that you're going through right now? The offer you got for our audience.
Oh, look, it's the swordplay guide. It wouldn't be anything how it is if it wasn't you guys involved in the rest of the community. But basically, if you want to pre-order a swordplay season guide, we do have some special codes for each of our content creators that have contributed to the guide. And whichever creator uses the most of their codes will get a prize for themselves, as well as a prize they can give away to their subscribers, whoever they want to do. So what I'll do is I'll put Ab's code down. I'll put Swizz's code down below as well. And if you do purchase a guide, please, guys, make sure to use one of these two codes. And yeah, for anyone that has already pre-ordered a guide, we thank you so much. And it's certainly not just my work, Dennis' work. It is the whole community's work. And thank you, both of you guys, for all of your fantastic support. You have been absolutely wonderful, spectacular. And cannot thank you enough. Swizz, any final thoughts, mate, before we go? Thank you again for coming on. It's been a long time coming. I know I've joined you boys a couple of times, but couldn't have asked for any more from this podcast, mate. Thank you very much again, bud.
No, I do appreciate that. I've had MJ's pod and your pod in the same week, which is two of my probably biggest fans. So, it's been great to actually get on and I love talking to you guys. That Swizz 10 for that code though, the Scodfather, go through him. He deserves it more. And I do really love the support from everybody in the community. We obviously did the bye chat and that. So thank you to everyone who jumped on that. Scott, we did the value chat too. Which was kind of interesting because I was sort of going through that to see where we were landing with those 10% and under players. So we might have to get on the pod again and have another chat about that. I've got all the team by team reviews happening as well, like not to steal your thunder because we're doing very similar there. And also the my team chat that came out yesterday. So check that out on the Supercoach Insider podcast. Hopefully it's let's just touch wood, nothing else happens because there's been a lot going on in the AFL world. Unfortunate news. There's been a lot going, not just the injuries, but obviously the real sad stuff too. So I hope everybody out there is doing well. And if you're ever having problems in that, our DMs are always open. There's people out there to look after you too. So I'll just throw that one in at the end. Extremely well said, my man. And Scodfather, geez, before we go, mate, $12,400. Am I? Is there a typo here?
It's unbelievable. The
You
interest.
you can't come down about this. Come on.
I can't come down. Okay, the interest that's
I've
building.
got one. I've got one.
tournament.
Yes, I wanted to get one in the video, so I've got one.
Now we've got bounties on our on both of you actually. If anyone can defeat any one of you two, they receive a reward of cash. Okay, and they virtually deliver straight away from my accountant. The horse, like he's gonna pay, but it's $100 entry, and it's virtually $4 a week, just over $4 a week, and it's one of the best tournaments. There's non-stop tournaments, knockout tournaments, tag team tournaments, bounties, higher scores. So it's we opened this up just so we can create some interest in a group, and this is just going to always pay out every single week. So it should be a lot of fun.
Love it. Let's get up to 20 grand, guys. It's 12,400. 20 grand. I want to see it from here. All the legends are involved. Cash prizes, fun tournaments every week. Please get involved. But thank you very much for watching. Again, Scodfather, Swizz, make sure you check out all their stuff. All the links will be down in the description. Guys, it's been an absolute honor and a pleasure. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon in the next one. Thanks, legends.